It started as nothing more than a joke, a moment of arrogance in a crowded hall filled with people who admired the brilliance of a world-class Grandmaster. The man, confident in his reputation and skill, was used to applause, respect, and the unspoken belief that no ordinary person could ever challenge him. That day, however, his pride pushed him to do something unusual. With a smirk, he turned toward a woman in the crowd, someone who seemed out of place, quiet and simple in appearance, and invited her to sit across from him at the chessboard. The invitation was not given with respect, but with amusement, as if it were a performance meant to entertain the audience. The room laughed softly at the idea, curious to see how quickly this game would end. After all, who could imagine a simple woman matching moves against a man who had conquered tournaments across the globe? But as she took her seat, something changed. Her calm eyes scanned the board, not with fear, but with a focus that immediately silenced a few whispers. There was no nervousness in the way she placed her hands on the pieces, only quiet determination that seemed out of place for someone who had just been pulled into the spotlight. The Grandmaster leaned back in his chair, confident that the game would be over in just a few moves. The audience waited for the inevitable. Yet, within moments of her first move, the atmosphere began to shift. People leaned closer, trying to understand what they were witnessing. The Grandmaster's smile faltered, and the crowd's laughter turned into silence. Something no one expected was unfolding on that chessboard, and what happened next left the entire room stunned. The silence in the hall grew heavier as the game progressed, every move drawing the audience deeper into a story no one expected to witness. The Grandmaster, who had begun the match with easy confidence, now leaned forward, his fingers tapping the table between moves. The woman, on the other hand, remained steady, her expression calm and unreadable. It was almost as if she wasn't intimidated by the spotlight or the legendary opponent sitting across from her. Each move she made carried purpose, and the board began to tell a different story than the one people had imagined. Whispers started spreading through the crowd. Some asked who she was, others wondered if she had studied the game in secret. But no one had an answer. She was just an ordinary face in the audience, someone overlooked until this very moment. Yet her quiet presence seemed to carry an authority that even the Grandmaster could no longer ignore. His usual rhythm, the quick, sharp confidence of a champion, was disrupted. He paused longer than expected, studying her responses with a growing unease that was impossible to hide. Those watching could feel the tension rising with every exchange on the board. What had begun as a joke now carried the weight of something far more serious. This wasn't just a game anymore. It had become a test of pride, skill, and perhaps even something deeper that no one could quite put into words. The audience, once entertained, now sat on edge, caught between curiosity and disbelief. Who was this woman, and how did she seem to play with the composure of someone who had faced champions before? The mystery deepened with every passing move, and everyone knew they were about to witness something unforgettable. The Grandmaster's fingers lingered over his next move, his once effortless confidence beginning to feel like a weight. He had underestimated her. That much was clear. What unsettled him more was the precision in her play. She wasn't making random guesses or relying on luck. Every move felt measured, as though she had already seen several steps ahead. The crowd, sensing this shift, leaned in with anticipation. What had begun as entertainment now felt like a battle of minds, a quiet storm unfolding across 64 squares. For the woman, this was not about pride or proving a point. Her calm eyes betrayed none of the nerves most would feel in such a setting. She wasn't distracted by the murmurs in the room or the piercing stare of her opponent. Instead, she played as if the outside world no longer existed. Some in the audience began to whisper theories. Perhaps she had once been a forgotten prodigy, someone who had walked away from the world of chess long ago. Others speculated that she was simply a natural genius, waiting for the right moment to reveal her gift. No one knew for sure, and that mystery only made every move more gripping. The Grandmaster, however, could not afford to entertain those questions. His reputation, his years of dominance, his name itself, all of it seemed at stake in this single, unexpected match. The more he studied her moves, the more he realized she was forcing him into unfamiliar ground, pushing him out of the comfort of his usual strategies. This was no longer just a game. It was a test of adaptability, of resilience, of whether he could outthink an opponent no one had seen coming. Around them, the room grew still, the audience caught between awe and disbelief. The question hung heavy in the air. Was the Grandmaster facing the beginning of his first true downfall? The match had reached a point where every breath in the room seemed to sync with the ticking of the clock. The Grandmaster's reputation, polished over years of victories, now hung by a thread against someone no one had expected to matter. He wiped his brow, his composure slipping, while the woman across from him remained completely still, her eyes locked on the board, as though she could see patterns invisible to everyone else. Her quiet focus only deepened the mystery, and with each piece she moved, the tension in the room grew heavier. Spectators who had come expecting light-hearted entertainment were now on the edge of their seats. Some clutched their programs, others whispered nervously, and a few simply stared in stunned silence. The board no longer looked like a simple game. It looked like a battlefield where every square carried the weight of destiny. The woman's pawns advanced like soldiers with hidden strength, while the Grandmaster's once flawless strategy began to look fractured. It wasn't just about winning or losing anymore. It felt as if pride, identity, and the fragile balance of respect were all being decided with each passing move. The Grandmaster leaned forward, calculating every possibility, but the longer he stared, the fewer answers he found. The woman's style was unusual, unpredictable, yet flawless in its own way. Every move she made was a quiet challenge, a whisper to him that the board no longer belonged to him alone. The silence of the audience pressed against him like a weight, waiting for a misstep, waiting for the moment that could rewrite the story entirely. When she reached for her next piece, the entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Her move was slow, deliberate, and when she placed it down, the air shifted. The Grandmaster's eyes widened, and for the first time in his career, he looked uncertain. The room braced itself, sensing that something monumental was about to happen. The Grandmaster's face grew tense as he studied the board, his usual sharpness clouded by hesitation. The move she had just made wasn't only clever, it was devastating. For the first time, he realized he was being cornered. Yet, just as the audience leaned closer, sensing the game's direction, another unexpected twist began to unfold. The woman did not press her advantage immediately. Instead, she paused, her gaze lifting from the board to meet his eyes with a calm that unsettled him even more than her strategy. That look carried something unspoken, as if she was not only playing against him, but revealing something about him to the entire room. The spectators shifted uneasily. What had started as a contest of moves was becoming something larger, almost symbolic. The Grandmaster's pride was unraveling in front of an audience that had always worshipped his brilliance. He tried to regain control, speeding through his next turns with a force that bordered on desperation. But his haste only opened the board further, and the woman seized the gaps with precision. Each piece she moved tightened the net around him, not just on the board, but in the perception of the watching crowd. Then came the second shock, the realization that the position forming on the board resembled one of the Grandmaster's own famous games, a strategy he had once used to humiliate a rival years ago. Now, in front of everyone, this simple woman was turning his own weapon against him. Whispers rippled through the hall as people began to recognize it. Some stared in disbelief, others gasped softly, and even the Grandmaster himself leaned back in his chair, stunned at the reflection staring back at him. The match was no longer just about winning, it was about legacy, pride, and the haunting possibility that his brilliance was being dismantled by someone no one had even seen coming. The air grew charged, every spectator waiting to see if the impossible was truly about to happen. The board had become a mirror of the Grandmaster's past glory, but now it was being rewritten before his eyes. His legendary strategy, once a weapon of dominance, was closing in on him like a trap he could no longer escape. Each second ticking away from the clock echoed louder in the silence of the hall. The woman leaned forward, her hand steady as she made her next move. Gasps spread across the room, It was the decisive strike, the move that turned the board against him completely. The Grandmaster froze, his face pale, as he realized he was just a few steps away from checkmate. The audience erupted in whispers, some standing to see better, others covering their mouths in disbelief. This wasn't just an upset, it was a reversal of everything they believed about genius and skill. The woman, quiet and composed, had not only challenged him, she had dismantled his pride with the same tools he had once used to build it. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on the Grandmaster as he moved one last piece, a desperate attempt to delay the inevitable. But her response came swiftly, a calm placement of her queen that sealed the game. The hall fell silent, the kind of silence that follows history being made. The Grandmaster, defeated, slowly lowered his head, acknowledging the impossible. Yet, before the applause could break out, the final twist arrived. The woman stood, her voice soft but clear, and revealed that she was no stranger to the world of chess. Years ago, she had been a student under one of his fiercest rivals, a name nearly forgotten by time. She hadn't come to embarrass him, she had come to prove that brilliance can be found in the most unexpected places, and that even legends can be humbled. The room, stunned into awe, erupted at last, knowing they had just witnessed a story that would never be forgotten. The hall erupted into thunderous applause, not only for the woman's victory, but for the grace with which she carried it. She did not boast, nor did she revel in the Grandmaster's defeat. Instead, she quietly gathered her things and offered him a respectful nod, a gesture that carried humility rather than triumph. The Grandmaster, though shaken, rose to his feet and extended his hand. In that moment, the tension broke, and the audience witnessed something greater than just a chess match. It was the meeting of two minds, one seasoned by years of glory, and the other sharpened by quiet determination. As the crowd buzzed with questions, people tried to piece together her story. Who was this simple woman who had silenced a room filled with experts and admirers? Some whispered about her past training, others spoke of her natural gift. But what mattered most was the truth everyone could see with their own eyes. Talent knows no boundaries, and greatness can come from the most unexpected places. The Grandmaster, humbled yet dignified, addressed the crowd with a rare honesty. He admitted that arrogance had blinded him, that he had invited her to play as a joke, never imagining she would turn the game into a lesson for everyone watching. His words drew respect, for in acknowledging his defeat, he showed the spirit of a true player. The woman smiled softly, saying nothing more, allowing her moves on the board to remain her voice. As the audience dispersed, the story lingered in every conversation, destined to spread far beyond the walls of that hall. People left not just remembering a match, but carrying a lesson. Never underestimate quiet strength, never dismiss the simple, and never believe that greatness belongs only to the celebrated. That day, the chessboard became more than a game. It became a reminder of humility, respect, and the power of hidden brilliance.